Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. God has guided me to speak in this video particularly about not only how you end a karmic cycle, which I have been already discussing so far, but how you move forward, because there is something else besides or beyond the spiritual fighting, right? I already described many times what spiritual fighting means. It's a multiple dimensional endeavor in which you heal, you break bondage, you set the record straight, you claim back what was yours, you take back what is yours, you claim and make justice, and so on. You break contracts, you revoke contracts, and you break strings, cut off connections, toxic connections, and so on. Now, at some point, you finish the breaking the bondage, so you end the karmic cycle. Then there is the time in which I already described, where God is making judgment upon those involved in creating it. And this takes also time, and like it or not, and this was a surprise to me as well, you must be part of that cycle as well. Actually, personally, I asked God, when I'm done breaking the bondage, I'm not interested to stick around and watch how you punish them, what you do with them, and stuff like this. Unfortunately, it's not possible. I wanted to move beyond that the next day. God said it's not possible because throughout the multiple processes of judgment, which some of them happen in divine realm, and you will be in a court of justice in divine realm on your subconscious level. So your higher self, your inner child, your subconscious level will participate in this process. This is why you do the healing on your inner child and or your subconscious level. So your subconscious level will be able to represent you, sort of like a lawyer, in explaining what was the circumstance, how it happened, and so on. And some of it's in 3D, where you basically take individuals to the prosecution system and to a 3D court of law and so on. But beyond that, moving on though, is the process of you claiming who you are, your identity. As I said, there are a few reasons why you come in 3D into incarnation, but some of them are related to your purpose in terms of future, in terms of what kind of legacy you will build. And this doesn't refer only to the spiritual fighting you've been carrying on. It is built upon that, but it refers to what you will create once you step into your power and you claim back that identity. And this basically, I'll give you one example so it will be a little bit clear. As I mentioned in the previous video, part of my purpose coming here was related to this field of water as element of nature, which is part of my domain. So then it means that when I am done with the breaking bondage, with the healing, and so on, I must claim that domain. And of course, because we are in 3D, you must remember what that means and how you work with it and how you master it and so on. So you basically start a learning, you can call it learning process. This is how we perceive it here in 3D. But God keeps pointing at me that it's a remembering, because your higher self already knows. Okay, the point is the same, that you have to start working with that field, with those deities, with those gifts, with those abilities, and so on. So you must claim it. You will fight the spiritual fighting with them, but you also must be prepared at some point when you are done with the spiritual fighting. There is, God keeps saying, tell them that there is something beyond the fighting. It's not just endless fighting. And this was a question I always had to God. And this is this all I'm going to do all my life? So I will know. Is there a way to end this? Because they will not stop. That's a fact. I learned that by now. So I hope that you got a plan to stop this, because otherwise we keep doing the same thing. And God keeps showing to me there is something beyond it. And this is a process of you getting ready to do that. And that is the process when you claim that specific field. And this, again, depends on your identity. This is actually the bondage you break throughout your spiritual fighting. It is is preparing you for that. So you will learn through that fighting all you need to know, so you will understand what you're supposed to claim and where is your place at that particular point in your evolution. Okay? So there is a moment, but what does it mean that you have to claim it? Well, it means that you have to finish all the healing process on your subconscious level, that first of all, you feel entitled to it. And I tell you, this might sound easy, but much of it, because I'm facing this situation, much of it will not be that natural. So it will be a logic explanation that you receive from the divine realm, that this is your field. But if in 3D you went through a specific education, and we all went through education in spirituality dominated by church. Everybody. This is the 3D. The church has exclusivity over spirituality, unfortunately. And unfortunately, they don't tell us anything about spirituality. And actually, I understood at some point why. Mostly because many of the priests do not have the gifts we have. They do not have the ranking that we have in astral. And many of them are just jealous. Or others of them are simply in a system which basically is requiring them to keep quiet. And they just care to have a roof over their head and some food on the table. So they don't want to cause trouble, for themselves. The fact of the matter, though, a consequence, though, is that many of these issues which should come natural to us are blocked by limiting beliefs which this kind of education created on our subconscious and conscious level. Okay, this is why, although God keeps saying to me, you have to remember this, actually to you or to me, it feels like I have to learn it. And some of it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. I remember 2019 spring, when I wrote my first sigil. It took a lot of discussion between Jesus and me, because it just felt freaky to me, I was like, what is this sigil? And I will tell you, I'll give you an example. At that time, this sigil, and so is part of the practice of magic, also related somehow. I asked some individuals on internet, I said, do you have a book on this thing so I can read, because I don't know how it's being done. And that individual sent me a few books, electronic books, and they were talking about sorcery. And I asked Jesus, I said, well, if I read out loud these things, do I call spirits or something in my house? Because I don't know how to handle that. So I'm just giving you a few examples so you'll understand that I fully understand the uneasiness in tackling some of the fields, which God keeps saying, this is not a big deal. They only taught you this. This is not as you perceive it at this point in time. And they created these limiting beliefs on you specifically because they wanted to steal those fields from you, to basically steal power from you, because you're not practicing the field in which you are actually, you have authority, you're on top of it, you own that. So there's a lot of it on psychological level. So it has to be a feeling of entitlement. First, you have to understand how that works. Then you have to feel comfortable with it. Then you have to have already a feeling of entitlement, and then a claim. You get authority, and then a claim is legitimate, and God will consider that you stepped into your power. So it's a whole process. And God is always careful throughout your spiritual fighting and bondage breaking to squeeze in lessons about this information. So He will gradually accustom you with the idea of what you are supposed to be doing next. Because God has been watching us, and He knows what are the limiting beliefs they placed in us. So He knows what we have to overcome and how we have to develop. But this goes to everyone, regardless which is the field. But as I said before, this is because the entire black magic, it's a human creation. It really isn't work with deities, not from underworld, not from anywhere. It's only with a specific type of outer cosmos forces which don't really hold power on Earth, are not naturally powerful on Earth. But because we do not step into our power and we don't take our domains back, we don't claim all those back, they keep doing this black magic. And the message of this video basically is that the way forward is for you to claim whatever it is that you came here to do. Yeah. As you claim that and you own it, the black magic and all their witchcraft and all these practices, occult practices from the dark, literally will have no power, because you already exposed them, and you already are working with the deities in that field. Therefore, they don't stand the chance to do any of this deception. And once we go, all of us, through all these processes, the deception, illusion, and darkness in 3D will be transmuted. In each and every step of these processes, which are repeated until actually you get it right, there are automatic processes of transmutation of darkness. So as you graduate each test and each of these, battles, wars, learning lessons, healing lessons, and so on, each and every single time you transmute more, you heal more, you take a step forward, and so on. And hence the darkness on Earth transmutes. Now, of course, this is going to be some sort of competition where they will intensify the creation of the darkness in order to stop us. And we have to walk our path in a rhythm, guided by divine realms, so we get successful in what we're doing, but also not to be overwhelmed by them as we do this. So basically, this is the way forward. I think this is how I will entitle this video, actually. The way forward is with you claiming that field for which you came here, because this is part of your purpose. You came here to break this bondage. Why? In order to transmute darkness. But how? By claiming that field which they took power over it, even in terms of blocking it, blocking the action of those deities. Since we don't know which deities and we don't call on them, that's already a blockage for a certain divine light coming to our aid on Earth, right? So this is basically what you're doing. You need to understand what is your purpose, what is your spiritual work, and what is your spiritual domain, and claim it, own it. And while you do this, automatically the darkness will be, I mean, it's not going to be really automatically. It's still going to be a fight. It's still going to be a struggle. It's still going to presume healing. It's going to be a process in itself. But as you advance in doing this, the darkness will be transmuted. And therefore, we basically will all succeed in what we propose for ourselves. Okay, so the way forward is this. Now, what you need to know is that the same bondage, you're going to keep repeating, breaking the same bondage many times. Because, as I said in other videos, breaking bondage with the dark forces which control these individuals, and dark forces many times can mean an entity or a darkness, or as I said, when they do necromancy, they work with spirits which they trapped, and so on. So all of these are forces, darkness forces. Basically, as they work with these forces, we now I forgot the point that I was trying to make. As you work with against those dark forces, the evolution of that dark force has a process of itself of metamorphosis. So many times you finish breaking a bondage, but that force that's body jumping in somebody else before you get to cast it out. Or by the time you started the spiritual fighting, that force already has done body jumping through too many individuals, and now you have to go back and break bondage with all of them from your past, you know. There are two processes which go in parallel, and God will create opportunities for you to repeat the same type of cycle, the same type of bondage breaking, until you learn everything there is, until you break everything there is to break there, revoking all contracts and everything, until you heal everything they created on you, and you make justice, basically. Okay, so the way forward is by making claims and owning the field that you came here to liberate from darkness. Okay, so the interaction with individuals is only related to the bondage breaking, and only as they come and try to stop you from your path. But here we came for this purpose, to claim and own our field, basically, to liberate it from these individuals and from the dark forces of 3D. I hope this is clear enough. I will stop here, and if you have any questions, please ask me. I think this is a very important message, even if I didn't get to reflect on it enough to actually have a broader description, only because I always had this question throughout my spiritual fighting. So I imagine some other people might have it too, because I always said, okay, fine, we do this, and next, what do we next? Please tell me there is something next. So there you go. I'm sharing now with you. This is the way forward, basically. Claiming and owning your field.